And sorry about the technical difficulties there. We're back talking about the separation between worst to first in the NL Central. So, yay or nay, at the end of the year, the separation between the last place team and first place team in the NL Central will be 4 games or below.
The conclusion that I've come to is that there's definitely a chance that could happen, but I just see at some point within the next couple of months, either one team's going to drop or one team's going to soar above. So as much as it could be a possibility, I'm still thinking that something's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm gonna say nay. I think that the top tier teams, which I view as the Cubs and the Brewers, which hope I don't jinx the Brewers in saying that. I think they're going to start running away with it a little more in the second half, as barring them continuing to play not incomplete baseball games. I think it's going to be a showdown for those two again down the stretch, but we will definitely see. So the next one will be 3 teams from the division make it to the postseason. 2 in the wild card and 1 division winner. Yeah or nay?
Well, to go over the 3 teams that I could potentially see doing this would be the Brewers and St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
Again, kind of with the answer that I had before, I think it is a possibility. But I do think what you were saying, that the Brewers and the Cubs are kind of going to start to pull away from it and make it a 2-man race.
Yeah, and I don't think that necessarily counts one team or another out of that wild card spot, considering the Reds would be in good shape in a number of other divisions if you place them in there, and if you just place them in there right now. I'm still gonna say nay. The Cardinals just don't seem that great to me, and I say that now, and they're gonna kill the Brewers going down the stretch. But the Cardinals haven't been impressive. That all too impressive to me. You get Jack Flaherty flirting with a no-hit bid, and you lose 1-0 going into the break. That's got to bite a little bit. And he hasn't pitched very well, and he's supposed to be the next best thing. So they were really banking on him and Goldschmidt to go perform and produce for him, and you're not getting a ton of production out of either of them. So unless those two turn it around and become big-time impact players for him, that's going to be tough. And losing Jordan Hicks for the year too, that's not an easy thing to come back from either. Though they do have John Gant, but he's not throwing 105 miles an hour at the back end of the bullpen either. The Brewers will go on a winning streak starting Friday against the Giants. Let's put this winning streak at, you're going to take an over-under winning streak, over-under set at 5.5 games. What say you? Taking the over, the under.
Ooh. I'm going to go under, but I think that they will not necessarily go on a streak, but just play very, very good baseball and win a lot of series.
I respect that. I want to say over. However, it feels like anytime I say they're going to sweep or they're going to do this, they're going to do that.
Yeah, you're not allowed to say that anymore.
I'm not. So I'm going to say nothing at all. I'm going to leave that one be, and we're going to move on to the next one, which is the Brewers will package Mauricio Dubon in a trade. That is a very unfair question. However, we are going to go with it. So they will package Mauricio Dubon in a trade.
I think if it's for the right player and everything works out well enough, I think there's definitely a chance. Because I know we talked about this before, but you really have a lot of guys in one position. So I think it's definitely a chance that happens at some point in time.
I am going to say yay. I believe that Mauricio Dubon will be on the move this year. But let's pretend that he doesn't. I haven't added one. Year name Mauricio Dubon will be on the 25-man roster for the next month.
Oof. But that depends, though.
It does. It depends on Arcia, but let's say
It depends
Arcia
on him. It depends on Mauricio.
Depends on what?
It depends if Mauricio performs because he's
Right.
played one game, which I can't judge.
I guess that's more what I'm getting at is say that, say he's getting on base at like a 350 clip. Let's say that. And that's still not a fair question. We're going to toss it. Dump it. I don't like that one. Moving on. Let's review the first half. Who has been the biggest disappointment for you for the first half of the season?
I tossed and turned on this question a little bit, but I ended on Jhoulys Chacín, just mainly because of my feelings towards him. In the offseason, I was really excited to see what he was going to be able to do in the second half of the season, and so far he hasn't been like completely terrible, but he hasn't been what I was hoping he would be. So, yeah.
I mean, he hasn't been the guy that you can send him out there and that you're going to get a quality game out of him. Like, you haven't had that. However, his last start going into the break, that was awesome. That was good. That was vintage him, so to speak, with the 1 year he's been at the Brewers. But
sure.
Hopefully that's something that carries on. So I'm optimistic about him, and maybe having a few days off is going to be able to help out too. I'm going to go with Travis Shaw. I think it's pretty obvious that he's been just flat out bad, and I don't know. I just don't really foresee him as somebody that's going to be a contributor for them at all this year. And it was actually interesting. While we had our technical difficulties break, I saw that Tyler Thornburg got released from the Red Sox. And
did he really?
He did. He just got released. So that's an interesting thing where it almost, basically they gave the Brewers Dubon and Shaw. And now you're seeing the main two pieces in that trade aren't, Thornburg's done. He's not on a team right now. And then you look at Travis Shaw, isn't even in the MLB right now. So it's just, it's interesting how that's working out, I suppose. Where you still have one piece, obviously, with Dubon. You don't know what you have from him yet. Who has saved the team from complete destruction?
I'm going to sound completely cliche on this one, and I think this is a person everybody else expects somebody to say, but you have to give it to Christian Yelich. I don't think anybody expected. I shouldn't say that. Coming into offseason and all the questions about him regressing and all the regression talks around him, it's crazy to see him continue off of the second half of last season, and it's been fun to watch, and it's also, I think, saved the team because he's had, especially earlier in the season, a lot of heroic moments to get wins.
Sure. Yeah, no, I agree with you. He's just flat out incredible. And another guy you can throw into that is Brandon Woodruff. In the ones the pretty obvious ones. Woodruff, he's put together obviously an all-star season. He pitched yesterday. He didn't pitch well yesterday in an all-star game, but got himself a double play, gave up a run that ended up being the one that ended up being it. No, I guess you could count Gallows as the game-winning home run, but Woodruff has been lights out for the most part since May going forward. He struggled a little bit in April. And then hitting too. You're hitting over 300 as a pitcher, and at this point, you've had enough at bats for you to come back down to earth. So you're seeing a guy that is helping the Brewers on both sides of the ball. But I'd say the one guy who I'm looking at that there's two actually. So let's look at pitching, the unsung heroes, so to speak. I can't believe I'm saying it for pitching, but Matt Albers.
Oh man.
Matt Albers has been he's been super good. He was rough at the start of the year when he first started pitching, but he's been he's been a stopper for him, and they've needed him to hold games for him.
He's pitched a lot.
Where you look
too.
at like they're right, and they've had like Junior Guerra was supposed to be that guy, and he's seems to have unraveled a little bit. But yeah, Matt Albers has like saved the Brewers in a number of games, and I can't believe that. I went from saying this guy won't be on the roster come June, and he has definitely been on the roster and pitched well. And then the other guy would be Eric Thames. The last week he didn't hit as well, but he's been the guy playing first base for you when you haven't been getting production out of a guy that you, with Aguilar, out of a guy that you thought was going to be your everyday first baseman. And Thames has played a decent first base and has been playing better than Aguilar in almost every aspect of the game. So, I don't know. Like those are two guys that have helped them in the first half. I don't know. With Albers, I could see it going for a while. With Thames, I get a little nervous. I like him a ton, but I just get nervous that this isn't something that's sustainable for him. But I also said that I think a month and a half ago or so, and he's still been putting up decent numbers. So hopefully it's something that he can continue to grow off of. Next one, whose performance stepped up the most throughout the year or throughout the first half? Sorry.
I put down two guys. One that we've already touched on in Woodruff. Never would I have imagined last year him coming out of the bullpen and then somebody who is also fighting for a starting role would have stepped in like he has, and especially since May, like what you were talking about. I mean, he's just been outstanding and one of those guys after a long bullpen night where he's come in and ate up innings. And also on that same point, Zach Davies, he was very injury ridden last year, but has really stepped up, especially in the beginning of the season. And also has ate up innings like Woodruff has.
Yeah, Davies has unraveled a little bit, and you hope that he can get back on track. But he has thrown some absolute gems of games for the Brewers, which have helped them. You hope that he can at least stabilize a little bit because he's struggled probably over the last month or so. The guy that I would say is Mike Moustakas. That's been a great re-signing, and honestly, looking at the trade, Jorge Lopez has been really bad for Kansas City, and Brett Phillips isn't even he's been up and down through the majors. You got him, I don't want to say for nothing because those guys are still young and they're in no hurry to be very good. But it's phenomenal having Moose in a Brewery uniform, and you hope that going forward he's going to continue to be a fixture for the lineup and still hitting bombs, still getting some timely hits. But we will see. And then before we get into our preview for the second half, what's one thing you would change about the first half if you could right now?
One thing that I would definitely change, this has been a recent problem, but it seems as though we've been allowing a lot of early runs, first, second, third inning. And I think, for a couple days, it might be a fine, but when it's day after day, it gets, the offense, I think, just has to just put their heads down and just almost kind of roll their eyes at it, where it seems like you're going into the third inning every night with a 3-run deficit. So that has definitely been an issue, especially as of recent.
Yeah, no joke. And a big culprit of that is Adrian Hauser. You got to fix it. They got to fix that spot in the rotation. They seem to think that Jimmy Nelson was going to be that guy, and he's definitely not. So I'm struggling to see who the next guy would be. But I would say it is driving in runners in scoring position. The Brewers are one of the worst in the league as far as batting average with runners in scoring position, and they leave a ton of runners on base. Those are games that have been lost. Their run differential is darn near even. That's not something that's not a playoff team right there. If that's what you're run differential is. Baseball's weird where it could be, but when it comes down to it, I don't see that as, they need to drive in runs when they can, and it can't always come off the long ball. And I don't know. I mean, I hope that's something that, I wish could have been changed in the first half, and I hope it's something that they can do in the second half. Talking about the second half with the preview, who do you think is going to get nuts, so to speak, in the second half? Who's going to have a good second half to help put the Brewers over the top?
My guy definitely has to go to Lorenzo Cain. He was somebody who he struggled a lot with the thumb injury, and he got the kill the nerve, I think it is. And then hopefully with a couple days off with the All-Star break, I think his personality, he can't help but try to explode, and he wants to be the dude to lead off for you every night and to make a difference and to constantly be on base, and that's what he wants to be. So I think now, with hopefully his health being in good condition, that he'll be able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm hoping Lorenzo Cain is the guy to take off, because he's a guy you are banking on to hit right around 300 every year and just be on base for your other guys to drive him in. I foresee him having a big second half as well, but the guy that I'm going to go with is Keston Hiura. I just think that you're going to see the guy that the Brewers are looking for as far as a prospect goes. And I have no rationale behind it or anything like that, but you've just seen it where he can adjust to a level, and he can adjust to a level and go mash the ball a little bit. So I think we're going to see some. We saw a home run right at the break. And I think it's something that we're going to be able to see him driving the ball around the field a lot more. Who is one player that you think the Brewers will need at the deadline?
I know I talked about this the last time we recorded an episode, but Will Smith, and this is coming from somebody who can really benefit the team, and also somebody that I would just love to have back in Milwaukee. I was so sad when he was traded away, and I don't know, just seeing him when we played San Francisco the other week, it just pained me, because I know he's that good and that good of a guy, but also we do need that back end of the bullpen support, because Jeremy Jeffress isn't the guy he was last year to do that for you. So now you're really stuck with Josh Hader and Matt Albers. And how we were talking about earlier, Albers is pitching a lot, and you can't expect somebody like that to do it every single night. So I think we definitely need to secure the back end of the bullpen.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a thought. I mean, there's if we're looking back end, I like Will Smith. There's Ken Giles. Depending on what San Diego does, which it sounds like they're actually in the market for Syndergaard too, so it looks like they'll be buyers. Quite possibly be buyers at the deadline, but possibly Kirby Yates, depending on what they do. But again, you look at either of those guys are going to cost to be able to obtain, which I don't necessarily see them making a move for, but we will definitely. Holy cow! I've been on mute that whole time.
Have you really?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I've been on mute that entire time.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. All right. So you did. I'll cut that. But you said Will Smith, right?
Yep.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I agree with you there. Other options are possibly Ken Giles from Toronto. Another option is possibly Kirby Yates from San Diego, but it sounds like they're in the market for Noah Syndergaard as well. So I think they'll be buying at the deadline, but he would also be Yates would cost an arm and a leg, so I can't see them going for him. But then I think the Brewers, if everything went our way, I think Howie Kendrick would be the option to go get, but Nationals are now in second, so I don't see them selling. The other option from the Phillies would be Zach Eflin, a guy who eats innings. That's what the Brewers really need with your bullpen just getting hammered left and right, having to pitch them all the time. Like you mentioned, Albers pitches a ton. You can't expect them to be at the top of their game when they're throwing 4 innings every single day. So I don't know. That's my thought is Eflin or Kendrick, but I don't think either of those are really viable options for the Brewers at this point. Then what's your goal for the second half?
Obviously, like, get into the playoffs, but I think to do that, we just need to win series. We don't need to worry about, going on a long win streak. We just need to win series. I think if you're winning a lot of series and you're winning it through September, I think you've put yourself in a really good spot for postseason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess mine is the goal after winning the series. My goal is for them to get into the playoffs, and hopefully they make the right moves and the guys put together the right strings of offense and pitching for them to be able to do that. All right, any final thoughts on this one before we wrap up?
Just enjoy the ride, everybody. We got a long way to go.
I agree. And also, sorry about all the crying and technical difficulties today. We had a little bit of a fun time in the Flegel household. So we will see you guys next time. Bye, Olivia.